And so much going on. But guess what, Jolyn?
What's up?
We're live.
Totally.
But I got something else to say, though.
What? Oh, Lord.
I'm back.
Okay.
Did you miss me?
Where'd you go?
I took a break. I sat back and looked at all the chatter and everything else. And I felt like, a lot of people have been asking me, am I back? And I didn't really have an answer yet. But, I think I'm back.
Okay. Well, welcome back. Make yourself comfortable.
Always, always, always. And what's good, everybody? This is Mark Monroe from the Come Up series, also attending with me and also going to be shooting at the hip, going for the head and everything else. My wonderful co-host, co-producer, and good friend, the wonderful
Jolyn GC, and the place to be. What does it, cousins?
And this is Hot Take Thursday, a show in which that Jolyn brings in the fire from some of the news, your questions, and everything else in between. And of course, I have to answer off at the top of the dome and try not to get stumped. So, first things first, let's see who's number one today.
Wait, is that the first thing first? Did we do did I miss the last one?
It's like, Jolyn, I got it.
Okay.
So shout outs to Jolyn Graham today for being number one.
Hey, Jalen.
And I'm looking through to see if they spelled anything out. And no, they didn't. They did not spell anything out. They did not spell out Come Up or the Come Up series in the chat. So better luck next week. We can get it. Maybe not, but we got faith in you. But I know one thing that you can do. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. And on top of that, hit that like button, because I guess we'll be totally grateful for bringing more and more cousins into the forefront and into the fold. And on top of that, if you think that we could do better, go ahead and hit that other button. We're okay with it. We get better over time, like fine wine. And on top of that, if you want to be in the know for when an episode comes out, never know when it drops. But if you want to be in the know, go ahead and hit that bell, aka notification squad, and you're part of the Cool Kids Club. All right, Jolyn. So
How are you?
I'm hyped today.
Oh my gosh, I cannot with you. I thought I could, but I can't. Okay.
No, I'm bringing a whole different set of energy now.
All right. Well, let me try to match that energy or whatever. Let me, let me sit up.
You see, I switched the chair.
Oh, you did. Okay. All right. Is that chair working out better for you?
I mean, they both work, but I felt like I should switch up the vibe a little bit. Little different cushion here.
All right. Where are the cousins coming from today?
Oh yeah. So go ahead and shout us out. Where are you coming from? We got Dallas in the building. I know that we got our cousins in here from the DMV. I've seen a few people in here from the islands. So
okay.
We got Newark, California, Hartford, Connecticut. Let's see here. Ooh, we got folks coming in all the way from the Shy. Let's go. Let's get it.
T-Bo said big Midwest energy. Okay.
I could see the Midwest energy. It's here in full effect. Oh, okay. We got Philly coming in. Uh-oh, we got Lakers land.
I saw the Sept.
I guess apparently people like it when I do that spell out, but I just gotta, it's a vibe. Just remember that. We got Atlanta, Haiti, Honolulu, North Hollywood, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Vero Beach, Florida, Colorado. Oh, okay. Kansas City, y'all in here. Okay. Stay safe out there, by the way. We got Durham, North Carolina. Coming all the way in from Barbados, Shaquille.
All right.
What up, though? Toronto, Baton Rouge in the building, Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
So we got cousins all in here. Let's go. Yes. Straight up melanin popping. I'm here for it.
I'm definitely here for it. All right, you ready to get into this market or whatever?
Downtown is where I live.
All right. Well, not me anymore. So
Not
anyway.
anymore.
What's up, everyone? It's Jolyn, just seeing the place to be. And this is Hot Take Thursday. And how am I feeling about this market today? I don't know. Kind of indifferent right now in this moment. So the Dow was at 141.59 points. S&P 500 was up 4.89 points. The NASDAQ was down negative 1.72 points. And the VIX is coming down to 16.74. And we got the 10-year coming in at 1.61%. Now for sector performance, as you know, there are 11 sectors and we track the top 3 and the bottom 3 so we can see what that rotation is looking like. So coming in at number 1, we got industrials, then financials, then materials. Then for our bottom 3, which all happen to be in the red, we have technology, consumer staples, and utilities. Now, we like to check in on the come-ups picks, aka the sips, and you can find those at on our Instagram page at that come up series. And we have SE coming in at number 1, followed by Boeing and then Twilio. And then for the bottom 3, we have Apple, Nvidia, and did I say Nvidia? Excuse me.
You did.
No, you'll just have to forgive me because even today the Bantu knots were not working. I had to settle for anyway. We just gonna keep it rolling. And Adobe. We have Target coming in at a 52-week high, so that's cool. Mark, are you ready for some Black history?
Always.
All right, let me scroll through because in this last moment I just got 80 jillion text messages. So hold on. Yeah, so shout out to Brian Clyett,
Chancellor
historian, because he totally. Oh my gosh, hold on.
We're gonna have to bring him back on the show one day so that way he can actually just give us like a history lesson for real.
Oh, that'd be so nice, and it'd be even better if I could find. Oh, here it goes. Y'all, something's going on with my phone because it wasn't pulling up and I just saw it. Okay, so shout out to Brian Clyett because he keeps the history popping, and it's just really good to be grounded and rooted in like our ancestors and always going back and carrying the torch forward. So we are celebrating Haitian Heritage Month. So I saw a lot of cousins from Haiti, so that's dope. And it's a celebration in the United States during the month of May. And we are celebrating Haitian heritage and culture. It has a threefold purpose. Number 1 is to raise awareness and understanding about Haitian culture and traditions. And then 2 is to strengthen the self-esteem and ethnic pride of Haitian and Haitian American youth. And then finally, we have the reason is to celebrate Haitian achievements across the globe. Haitian Heritage Month was first celebrated in Boston in 1998 by Tele Creole, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, one of the Boston Haitian access television programs. Haitian Heritage Month is celebrated the whole month of May with a series of programs on Haitian history, culture, and contributions to the world. Haitian Flag Day is at the center of Haitian Heritage Month on May 18th every year. It was coined as an official commemoration to the fallen soldiers who helped the United States and many other Western colonized countries gain their freedom and independence. Here's a quote. "We have dared to be free. Let us dare to be so by ourselves and for ourselves." Jean-Jacques was a leader of the Haitian Revolution and the first ruler of an independent Haiti under the 1805 Constitution. So we just had some technical difficulties. Mark is going to be coming back in shortly, but I want all the cousins that are from Haiti to shout yourself out. We got you switch locations. Yeah, I was just having people to shout themselves out for those that are throw all the flags in the chat for us one time. So, Mark, are you on the iPad?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, are you ready to get into some news? You ready?
Let's set the vibe, Jolyn.
Okay. Okay. I see. I should have turned on the disco lights. We could have really put hard in here. All right. So, we had, I feel like the questions were mainly about like the main headlines that happened today with some of our major companies. So,
Okay.
we may or may not play a game. It really just depends. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So
We're not gonna play any games? Oh.
we might. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Okay. So, Mark.
Yo.
Let's just get this out the way right now.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about the stonks. So AMC, here's the question. Actually, it's not a question. It's more like, well, it is a question, but it's like your thoughts. AMC and GME, aka GameStop, going to the moon?
Is this a paper moon?
A moon.
I will say this, like, shout outs to everybody that played that position. I did not partake in it or anything like that. So if you made money on it, congratulations. I mean, it's a very speculative play. I mean, you've heard Mr. Chikamba come on and talk about it himself. And I heard that they were talking about doing a GameStop NFT or something like that to kind of like bolster up interest into the company. Of course, you see essentially a ton of folks that are ultimately using it just purely just for speculation. I mean, we've heard the earnings reports from GameStop is like nothing that wowed investors or that said, okay, hey, that this is the reason why I should be buying more of it. I think it's really just a short seller's interest or short interest play. So I just say buyer beware or trader beware.
Okay. So can I talk? Or can I talk? I'm gonna get this question out because I don't want to forget it.
Okay.
So just for those cousins that are new to a Thursday, if you have a question, every Thursday I put out a story and asking for what news you want to cover on Thursday. So you can respond to that like with your question or whatever you want to cover or whatever you would like to discuss rather news wise via my Instagram. So I have a question that was too long to fit into the little box, and I'm making an exception for this cousin. I normally, if it goes through the DMs, I don't get the question because there's just too much in there and trying to dig through, and they don't have a search function. So anyway, I'm making the exception this one and only time. So here's the question. If the month you're supposed to sell the contract is the best month for the pick itself, would you hold a little bit longer or sell? For example, XLC's best month was April. Let's say the month to get out was April. Will you stay or will you get out?
I would stay, but then ultimately I would set a trailing stop or a stop on quote to ultimately protect myself from any potential downside risk. What I would also do there is I would probably be readjusting that every day by setting a good for 60 days. And so it's just going to stay in open order. And from there, any day in which that it has a strong pullback, it automatically puts me out. If not, let it keep running. And from there, that's how you could play it.
All right, I do want to play one game. One game. This game is of a musical nature.
Okay. Well, since we're going to play some games, I'm going to play one myself.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I feel like, it's been a minute. It's been a very cold minute since I've been here in this place.
Are you changing?
No, I'm not changing clothes.
No, I thought you were going to put on a particular piece.
Oh, no. That comes another day. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take it back. I feel like I need to take it back. So I feel like I must take it back to one of the original sections in which that when everybody first met me. So let's go. Let's play this.
All right. So here's the game. It's like I said, it's of a musical nature. So I'm going to say the stock.
Oh, Lord.
And I want the cousins to play along in the comments as well. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Now I'm gonna say a stock. Actually, I'm gonna say a ticker symbol, and then
Okay.
you have to give the song that would be that stock's or ticker symbols theme song heading into Quad Witch. All right.
Let's go. Let's rock.
First one. This is one of your favorite pastimes. This is one of your favorite companies. If today was April 1st. The company, the ticker symbol is AMC.
Can we talk
That's
by
not his favorite, y'all. That's not his favorite.
I was gonna say, whoa.
Can
we talk by Tevin Campbell?
What? But why though?
Wait, that was not part of the rules.
Hello, I'm the game master here. Can we talk? What do you want to talk to AMC about?
Nothing. It's just that they're gonna be the ones that are trying to sing to me, and I'm walking away.
Okay, all right. Now, what about GME?
Oh Lord, you are really going for it.
Away.
I'm gonna say the song is okay. I would say that the name of the song that I would play for GameStop would be, oh man, Tyrone by Erykah Badu.
Somebody said oops upside your head. I don't know if that's for GME or AMC. I think it applies to both. All right, so okay, here's one more for this portion. AMZN.
Amazon? Oh. I would do, and I can't look at my Apple Music playlist, right? Oh, you're killing me. Okay, I would say Racks by Her.
Why?
I mean, because here's the thing: it's like they don't understand Amazon, and people really don't understand. Here's a gem that I'm about to drop. Amazon, if you really think about it, is 32% undervalued right now. 32% undervalued. It's fair value, actually. If you look at the company, its fair value would actually place the stock at $4,790 a share. Don't let that one go over your head.
Okay. Well, speaking of Amazon, so this acquisition of sorts of MGM, is that there's a cousin that wants to know, is that like a threat for Netflix? And if so, what should Netflix focus on?
I think that this is like kind of like I look at Amazon as kind of like Arya from Game of Thrones. It has a list. Anybody can get it.
Okay. All right.
Even Google's even talking. Hey Google.
Google's talking about it.
Stop.
Hilarious. Okay. Now let's see, the next question. We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back to that game a little later.
Okay.
So here we go. This is the question. Effects slowing population growth could have. What are the effects a slowing population growth could have on the economy over the next decade?
Ooh, I mean, one of the biggest challenges, and for anybody that needs to know, like look at what's happening over there in Asia, where you're starting to see that their population is starting to slow down. And one of the interesting things is that you got to look at it when we look at it from an economic standpoint. With some of the challenges that could possibly happen is one, the effects of talent. So, for example, you get so much. It's like you bring so much in, and there's so much opportunity, but you don't have enough talent to fulfill it. And I think that you're starting to see that happening overseas, over in Asia, which is very, very interesting, especially when it comes to chips manufacturing and other tech-related companies. So that's very interesting. Another thing to look at when you see that, population or say, for example, slow growth, some of the things that you also start to see is essentially, where is the money going? Do we get to we typically see high inflation periods in the temporary, but then they start to turn into, over a period of time, they'll start to go into a deflationary period. So that would be something to also watch out for.
Okay. So up next, oh, you had mentioned Google, and there was a question about Google.
Oh,
People are
really?
asking about Google Glass for healing, and also like the impact in the health sector.
Only Google, eh? Okay, I'll play.
Okay.
I didn't make the rules of this game, so I'll just play along. I can only answer what she asked me. Just remember that. So when it comes to nope, what was it?
So annoying. Good.
So the thing with Google Glass, and I think that with Google Health, they're not gonna be the only company that's gonna be within that forefront that's stepping in. I mean, especially since, honestly, the self-correcting, vision and everything else. I mean, I think that that's going to be something in which that people really need to start paying attention to, and especially like since they're not going to be the only game in town. Now, is Google going to be on the forefront of that? I don't think so at all.
Okay.
I don't think that they're going to be on the forefront. I think that there's another juggernaut coming out of the West that they're going to have to go toe to toes with, especially when it comes to health. But
All right. Well, we're gonna go forward and ask another question that has to deal with.
No, it's a funny fact. I wasn't even talking about that company. But thank
you. Okay, so with Google and other giants stepping into the healthcare space, companies that seem to be in trouble already, like Teladoc. Now, are they looking more attractive as a acquisition or?
Yes.
Okay, so in
that answer, yes.
Okay, so in that same healthcare space, what other companies that are smaller?
Oh, okay.
Smaller than Google. We're talking about Google for right now. We're keeping it in context. Smaller than Google, looking like possible acquisition targets besides Teladoc.
So you got Teladoc, you got Forward. You also have a few other significantly smaller players. There's a ton of startups that are within the space. You also have to think about concierge medicine or concierge doctor services that are going to be huge, especially over the next few years, because of the fact that people don't want to go back to significant wait times. And that's going to be, something in which that if we've already solved the problem of bringing, help to people at home, I think that that's just going to be the next essential step that the rest of the world is just going to have to accept. They already accept it over there in the UK and the rest of Europe, and sometimes I think also in parts of Asia, where you can actually have doctors that come to you and come and see you, or essentially you just have access and you can text them and do all those things. So I think that there's a ton of different startups that are on the forefront that are definitely doing things like that. But honestly, yeah, I see that when it comes to the publicly traded side, I think that Teladoc definitely is looked at as the strongest acquisition target when it comes to telehealth, telemedicine. Now, if we're talking about larger players, I can go in my bag and talk about that, but maybe we'll save that for, whenever. I guess I'll stick to the rules here.
Okay, well, I change the rules all the time, but I'm actually that will be a whole other game in a little bit later. All right, so we got the Google stuff out of the way. Now we're switching over to Tesla. So as you know, Tesla is looking at, acquiring some plants or what have you to help with the semiconductor shortage. Now, the question, expanding upon that question, or that context, we have Ford trying to come into the mix as well. I know how you feel about that. But the question is, since it seems as if Tesla is not getting as much, well, they kind of are, but it seems like this love-hate relationship between the government and Tesla, like they're kind of brotherhood between Ford and the government, because Ford is ultra America, even though Tesla is based here. But the question really is like, how advantageous will that be for Tesla, and how do you see that playing out in this kind of race to number one market share for in the EV space?
So I think the biggest thing is that you see the biggest argument for against Tesla when we talk about the United States government against Tesla is the fact that Tesla's employees are non-union workers. I mean, we kind of saw that like where the United States government kind of slightly tipped its hand, where we saw the issue of highly publicizing the unionization vote at Amazon. And Amazon got a lot of pushback. And it's like, we come from we're a country that's made up of, hey, support the unions and unionization is the way to go. But that doesn't work for everybody. And that's not always the perfect model. So honestly, I think that they're heavily rewarding companies like Ford and GM that have strong unions. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, just for everybody to understand, here's the thing to look at when it comes to what's taking place. The United States government is getting ready to pass an infrastructure bill that's also going to include tax credit or some type of rebate system that gives up to $12,500 off a vehicle or towards your vehicle if you buy it. Now, of course, if you buy a vehicle from Ford or GM or any other company that's American made or that has American presence, that's made here in America, then essentially what they're going to give you is the full $12,500 because of the fact that they have unionization. So they're rewarding unionization and Tesla's being penalized in the sum of $2,500. Now, here's the thing in which that they may have possibly screwed up. Because what happens when nobody wants to buy any of these vehicles? And now you just given everybody a reason to go ahead and buy Tesla vehicles now. And on top of that, you just shaved off $10,000. So if you take a Model 3 valued at $39,000, now it's valued at $29,000. And that now starts to look very, very competitive across the entire landscape, across the board. And here's the reason why. Because beforehand, before all this legislation was coming out, we were hearing about like, okay, hey, they were phasing out the $7,500 tax credit for EV vehicles. So if you bought an EV vehicle back in 2018, 2019, then up to 200,000 vehicles, then pretty much after that 200,000 vehicle, then ultimately it starts to phase itself out. Well, you're going to remove that marker and say, hey, you can go over 200,000 vehicles. And ultimately it's like, I think it goes up to 3 years. So now it's just imagine how many vehicles will Tesla sell over 3 years. And now you've just given them $10,000 off or given the folks that want to buy $10,000 off for a vehicle that they ultimately want. So it's like, all right, we will reward the $2,500 towards the unionized companies, but actually, honestly, I don't see Tesla losing any sleep off of that, none whatsoever. So honestly, good luck to the legacy auto manufacturers. I think that they will definitely need it because, again, we're still waiting. Clock is ticking, and it's been about a week now since we've heard about this announcement of this Ford F-150. But in my guess, I'm going to be probably guessing that we still don't even reach 150,000 vehicles that have been pre-ordered for the Ford F-150. And keep in mind, when Tesla's vehicle, keep in mind the Cybertruck is now at 1 million pre-orders for that truck. So,
well, I mean, basically the government has made it so that you can purchase the full self-driving because the full self-driving is like 10,000. So,
and word on my street is that they're getting ready to possibly, well, there's talks about that they may be upping the price from 10,000 to 14,000, but they may have to readjust that given in the sense of what takes place from, the legislative infrastructure bill. They may hold off on that for a little bit and more so just open up the world to subscription and just going subscription-based FSD. So that way, if you don't want to deal with the full headache, the breadth of the headache of, all right, well, now we got to deal with all of this. Instead of doing all of that, now it's just like, okay, hey, it's much more digestible to just pay it on a monthly base. So again, not all is bad for a company like Tesla.
Sorry, T-Will's making me laugh. Okay, so a question about the full self-driving. Do you think that they will get rid of the, pay in advance for just lifetime full self-driving? Or do you think that If they get rid of, do you think they'll get rid of it and just only have subscription here on out?
I think that ultimately that they'll probably get, well, I think that sooner or later, I mean, you're going to run into the fact that, a lot of the early payments that are being made right now are covering a lot of the development of FSD and the improvement of the software. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later, we'll get to the point where it'll just become industry standard, and everybody else that was an early adopter and that was willing to make the payments to make the system great will ultimately say, hey, I was one of the early folks that paid for it, but then it now just becomes a part of the standard package to every single vehicle that is sold across the board. Sooner or later, there'll be a unit. Well, not sooner, but down the road, there'll be a unification in which that you won't even have to really worry about it. It won't even be in the cost.
Okay. All right. So,
but I have this feeling that essentially, since Tesla owners, a lot of Tesla drivers already pay for the premium connectivity with their cars, and I think it's like $11 a month. Mm-hmm. I could see that being added on to. So it's kind of like becoming the Apple of services within Tesla, where you can make the fees a little bit more digestible over time. And essentially, it's like if you just consistently having someone paying that over time, then essentially it's like, no harm, no foul.
Wait, is there an option to just have the connectivity, like the premium connectivity, like flat rate period for life?
Yeah, well, I don't think so yet. I don't think so. I think you just pay like $11 a month.
Okay, so here's a question: What does the return to normalcy mean for the market?
Return to normalcy. What does it mean for the market? I mean, sooner or later, the market's going to need leadership, and the current leadership in the sectors is not it. It's not going to happen. Sooner or later, we'll get to a certain form of normalcy. I think that what you saw earlier this year was you saw that institutional money really try to put a damper on retail money by saying, hey, allow us to reintroduce ourselves and recognize our status. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, you saw that retail traders and investors weren't going away. Now, there may be some battle marks here and there, but it's retail investors are just not going anywhere. I think that with the new normal, because you have to take into consideration there will be some form of a new normal. What does that look like? I don't know yet. But what I can say is when it comes to the markets, you typically have leaders in which that extend the market, whether it's the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, or even the Russell. You're going to have leadership step back in and take its place in the forefront. Will some of that leadership look different? Yes, because of the fact that you've seen some new leadership step forth, like, for example, a company like Square. You're going to see them come into the forefront in which that they weren't leadership before, but pretty soon they will be. Any company that's out there that's doing significant damage and innovation and is well prepared for the new normal, mm-hmm. then they're going to be leading the forefront. A lot of the companies now, they just look safer because of the fact that they're just infrastructure plays. And that's where institutional money is at. It put money towards infrastructure, or the things in which that are the non-sexy parts of the infrastructure. So let's give an example. And I put this riddle out there on my Twitter a while back. When you look at, say, for example, the semiconductor market, you haven't really seen that strong performance from, let's say, the AMDs, the Qualcomms, the NVIDIAs, as well as the, partly somewhat of the TSMs. Mm-hmm. But you have seen strong activity from your Lam Researches, your Applied Materials, your ASMLs, and every now and then you'll get like On Semiconductor, hint hint, and a few other players out there. So those are more so your huge infrastructure, and it makes sense because of the fact that you have a shortage. But those are not, let's not get it twisted. Those companies are not the most sexiest names when in the semiconductor space. The ones that I had previously had mentioned, those are the ones in which that everybody wants to own. The problem is it time to own them right now? Mm. And that's the question. The other part of the question is that, are those companies that had magnificent runs in 2020, are their best days ahead of them still, or are they behind them? And my answer is, for a vast portion of especially big tech or large cap, or say, for example, companies that were doing well, I would say go back and look at 2019 and 2018. Go see who the leadership was during that time. And if you want to go back even further, go look at 2017. Because I guarantee you leadership is going to go right back to those sectors in which that ultimately that were the leaders.
Okay. Up next, Apple looking into alternative payment methods.
Oh, you tried it. But she didn't ask a specific question though. So I will answer the question.
Can I just set it up?
I'm going to let you set the room however you want.
Let's
So,
reset the room. No, I'm just kidding.
so all right. So looking at um, looking at Apple, they're probably one of the best positioned companies alongside Square for digital wallet. I mean, what Square did is I think what they're doing is let's build services around the wallet in which that we can use as like passport. And I think that Apple's using it more so in the sense of not only just in the sense of just payments, but also in the sense of utility. Like, for example, look what they did in Japan. They added in transportation that's now tied to the iPhone, and you also see it in other places. They also added in like insurance cards. So, for example, you can actually tie your insurance card, your auto insurance, to your Apple wallet. They did the same thing as it pertains to transportation when it comes to your flight tickets and all that other stuff very, very early on. So they already had the infrastructure ready. Now it's just a matter of, okay, hey, can we pay for things with alternative currencies outside of the standard fiat currency? And I think that that's ultimately a good move for Apple. I think that one of the things, and shout outs to Q, I'm not going to give away all the sauce there because ultimately I know that Q's got something up his sleeve coming down the pipeline. But look at credit cards. Apple also got into the credit card space, and it took off. It's doing okay, but it's not doing the best of the best. So I will say this as a warning, because I'm probably sure that Q will want everybody to also be forewarned. Watch a lot of these karma type credit lending tactics and strategies that you'll see come out from other, digital payments or other banks that are out there within the space of saying, okay, hey, you don't have to pay now, you could pay it later, and then ultimately hitting them either with nosebleed fees or essentially like people just borrowing up to the hilt with money that they don't have. So I would just say, just be mindful of that. But honestly, Apple is definitely setting the stage, and if you have a company like Apple that joins in the party, then that now just makes the entire cryptocurrency an alternative currency, literally an argument that's no longer, that can't be unheard or that can't be unexplained. Now you have a company in which that says, okay, hey, we have the infrastructure, our infrastructure is trusted. And now essentially you can now use these cryptocurrencies to actually use to buy, sell, or to send and receive in a manner in which that ultimately you can actually do something versus what it currently is today, where people are just jacking up the price or the market cap of the currency and not doing any type of significant transactions.
Okay. I kind of want to move on from Apple and get into something else. And actually, no, we can stick with Apple. Okay, so here's another game. Are you ready?
Always.
Okay, so this game is all about whispers. Okay? And so I'm going to name some companies. And you have to start, well, I'll start the sentence off with word on the street is, and then I want you to go deep in the bag and share some things that may not be, that people aren't really thinking about, or, or like too far in the future, or, people it's just not on people's radar. So are you ready?
So unfair. Let's do it.
Okay, so let me see. Here's the company. The company is one that we barely talk about. So Facebook. That's the company. Word on the street is.
Oh man, this is brutal. Word on the street is that Facebook is going to end up and silently unify all of its platforms underneath U.S. Congress's nose, and once they do that, then you can't unpull them from each other. And from there, I think that they're really trying to look into Libra as a major piece of their currency. I don't know whether or not that's going to work or not, but it does have some opportunity and it does have some legs to its argument. Another part in the word on the street is be very, very mindful of its augmented reality platform and what they're doing there. And here's the thing, Facebook is already testing holograms. So essentially they're looking at beyond augmented reality and VR, which they're actually saying, what happens if you merge those two worlds together? And essentially brought forth something as it pertains to holographic technology. Kind of like what we saw like with Tupac on stage and what they tried to do with Michael Jackson after he passed away. That was, okay, I move on. So I would say word on the street is that Facebook is definitely looking beyond AR and VR and looking to go into holographic technology. And that can be a really, really big thing, especially when you think about retail advertisement and so many different other factions and functions.
Okay, now I'm gonna pick a company randomly.
Sure.
No, it is random, I swear. I'm going like this on the list, and we're seeing where it falls at. Oh, I wish I had like a little spinner thing. Yeah. Okay, so the company is XBO. Word in the street is.
Oh, word on the street is that essentially that everybody on Wall Street is literally sleeping on this company and essentially that industry as well. Word on the street is that just imagine what transportation of such things will look like when it comes to moving large shipments across and around the world or around the nation, domestically as well as foreign. I think that honestly, when we think about autonomy, you really need to start thinking about how autonomy will also start making its way into companies like XPO. Major opportunities coming down the pipeline there. And I think that with that, it will all, well, I'm going to just answer the question, stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to.
Y'all, he's hating on you. He's hating. Okay, next up. I'm trying to go with ones we don't talk about as much. So
that's fair.
Roku, word on the street is.
Word on the street is that they're really trying to challenge Google, especially after that whole little beef-in situation between YouTube TV and Roku's platform. I think that Roku kind of misstepped there, and I think that they're going to probably have to walk that back, so that, let Q tell it. He thinks that honestly that they have a little bit more leveraging power. To a degree, they do, but at the same token, it's not Google. Word on the street also is that people need to also start paying attention to its ad space, in which that now that they have the devices and everything else, that's also going to start bringing in some significant revenue, in which that honestly people didn't, just like Amazon, they didn't think that Amazon could be a leader in the ad space. Well, you need to also start looking at a company like Roku as well, as it pertains to another significant stream of revenue for the company. And I still believe that word on the street is if certain things take place, when maybe, just maybe, you could possibly still be seeing them as an acquisition target.
Okay, so for our final one, I'm gonna let the cousins pick the final one. So y'all put in the chat and whatever one.
Can I do it? Can I do a secret sauce one?
Okay, go ahead.
Word on the street is that people also need to be paying attention to not only just Apple's wallet, digital wallet, but word on the street is they also need to be paying attention to its health passport also. That's steadily growing. When you think about the type of technology in which the Apple has brought to the table, think about it. They did Harvard research medical studies. They're doing diabetes studies through their Apple Watch. And think about it. They now have auditory for sound through AirPods. Ding, ding, ding. They have watch. And then on top of that, there's the word on the street about the glasses, in which that the glasses technology can self-correct the vision itself. Then let's not take into consideration the fact that they're working with insurance companies, aka many healthcare insurance companies, in providing, you guessed it, stuff like this. So that way, essentially, it can pass on to other services. If you use your Apple Health and you understand where I'm going with this, where they're able to track many different things, whether it's your sleep, your weight, your water intake, and everything else in between, and your workout, as well as your heart rate. So it's able to track all these things, and it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so essentially, it's the question is, could Apple potentially become a company that can ultimately challenge a lot of those healthcare or health insurance companies, and really have the dominance because of the fact that they walk with you every day. They're there with you. So that could be huge, in which that people are not really paying attention to. But yet health passport, that's a major, major opportunity. And when you think about it, that could be Apple's word on the street. That could be their road to a $4 trillion company, just like that.
Okay. We're going to save, that was the last one, but I actually, we'll play that again. I like that one. All right. Now, we know that there's some big conferences coming up next week. So in our last 15 minutes,
okay,
because we have a hard stop, y'all. You don't understand. I'm hella tired. Like, it's just been a week. So okay.
Don't let the smile fool y'all though. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, like we needed a freaking break. Okay, so in the last 15 minutes, We have a lot of conferences coming up next week. Like, what should the cousins be looking for? Like, what should we be tuning into? We need to know.
So next week you're going to have Computex, which is going to be huge because it's pretty much the who's who among the semiconductor and really the infrastructure base of technology. So you're going to have, it's going to be funny because you're going to have AMD, in which that we just heard that they're getting passed through from the EU or Europe, in which that they're going to okay that. Then the final step is China for the Xilinx deal. We're not going to hear anything about that, but we're going to see the new tech that comes out. We're also going to hear, we won't be able to see Jensen because apparently he's doing other things versus showing up to his consumers. But I mean, if he thinks that somebody else can present on stage better than he can without the leather jacket, then I think that he's mistaken. But NVIDIA will be presenting at Computex as well. But interesting thing is also we'll be seeing ARM's CEO on stage at Computex as well. I hope I didn't say CES, I meant Computex. And so within that, you get to see what the technology looks like, who the manufacturers are, and who are the OEMs, and which that are working with the tech and that are also coming out with the new motherboards and things in which that can support that new technology. That's huge. I think you may also see Intel there, but you know, it's sometimes hit or miss.
Wait, you said the acronym OEM, is that original equipment manufacturer? Okay, it went by so fast, I had to remember. Okay.
Then on top of that, you also have another conference by the name of E3 that's coming out, and that's the who's who amongst gaming. So when you look at Take-Two Interactive, Activision, Blizzard, and then on top of that, you got to look at, again, AMD and NVIDIA because of the fact that AMD, Microsoft, and Microsoft Xbox, and Sony, SNE, PlayStation 5. And then on top of that, when you look at NVIDIA, you got to look at Nintendo Switch and what is it that they're doing there. I think that they're getting better. And on top of that, I think that this could be the first E3 where we also talk about cloud gaming, which therein brings another player into the forefront that a lot of folks aren't talking about that's within the cloud gaming space. And that's also Amazon. Amazon Luna is something in which that we've been hearing some rumblings. We haven't really heard that much because they're keeping it very much so under close lips. I'm still waiting to get my my full-on invite. So if you work at Amazon, I would love to give a review. But at the same token, now you have in the Google or in the gaming space of the cloud, you now have Microsoft, you have Sony, which is still putting up a valiant fight. You have NVIDIA, you have Google, and now you have Amazon in the space. And of course, if you really want to count Apple, you could do that too for Apple Arcade, but nobody really does it. So that would be interesting. And on top of that, the other part to look at is the fact that now that Amazon has acquired or is going to acquire MGM, just imagine what games they can also produce within their studios. Because I believe that gaming will ultimately has already surpassed movie and film and TV. And I think it's more entertaining and the stories are way more robust. So that would be interesting there. That's E3. And then to top it off, on June 7th, you also have Apple's WWDC event, which you could get a one more thing, but if anything, it's going to point to you and tell you exactly where is it that they're headed software wise, and software always directs hardware. So those are the things to literally say, hey, we're going to have a pretty loaded week.
Okay. So it's even with the holiday, you think things will be jumping off in the market?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think that you're going to see some of the folks that have already started to position themselves for next week. But I think that it's really going to start popping off, especially as we start seeing a lot of those keynotes. I really expect Lisa Su to come out shining bright and like literally stunning the whole crowd with Zen 4, which everybody is not really expecting. But I have this strong feeling that she's going to introduce that along with some other things. If you let me geek out, PCIe 5, which that's huge, especially when we talk about gaming and graphics. So I think that that's huge. And also if we hear anything about like automotive and what they're doing in that space alongside with AI, that's just another piece of the pie.
Okay. All right. So here's a question. This is about the inclusion of Tesla into the S&P 500 ESG index. What's the long-term impact of that?
I think that that's good. I mean, honestly, it's like, you know, Tesla deserves to be up there now. It's like, is any company perfect when it comes to ESG? No. I mean, because people are still trying to understand ESG. And you sometimes have the wrong people that are literally up there saying, okay, hey, this is what ESG is, and this is how we should be defining it. And honestly, we're still in its very infancy stages. I think the other part is, and I'd be remiss if I forgot, because we also have Tesla's event for June 3rd. that's coming out for their delivery day for Model S Plaid. So that should be interesting as well. I think that in looking at ESG, I think that, you know, a lot of folks only look at it from the environmental standpoint, but they fail to look at it from the social side and also the governance side. You know, when we look at companies like, for example, you know, Tesla, you know, everybody looks at it for its environmental footprint and what it does. But then look at the social impact in which that Tesla has also changed. It pulled every single legacy auto manufacturer from outside of their comfortable offices and said, okay, hey, now you got to come see me outside. And ultimately, now you're seeing them literally change the entire industry, or force the entire industry to change. And then you could probably be seeing even a carbon tax that may be coming out down the line. So essentially, it's like, you know, it's just a matter of essentially like, you know, looking beyond just the environmental, but looking at the social impact and look at how the companies govern. Now, does Tesla need to improve its governance? Yes. But where it's at right now, I think it fits.
Okay. This is, now we're talking, you know, globally. How do you look up other markets, like London markets, Asian markets? They're wanting to know how you look that up.
How do I look it up? I mean, one of the places that I look at is bar chart, because it shows you everything around the world, not just here in the United States on the domestic home front. So that's an easy service in which that I use. That's probably the first place that I go to look up markets outside of just the United States.
Okay.
You can also use Bloomberg also.
Something that we didn't, I don't think we really, I think that the companies were talked about separately, but I don't think they were talked about as far as a partnership. So that is Square partnering with Google. What is the, well, I guess one is like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that's a good matchup? Do you think that that is a threat for Apple? No? Okay.
No, Apple is way too big. And then on top of that, it's like, I see the benefit because clearly Google Pay is crap. I mean, they've gone through, I don't know how many different editions of Google Pay, Google Wallet, Google Pay. I don't know what it is today, probably Google Pay again. And nobody really uses it, but everybody uses Square. So I think that that's a good thing. I mean, for Google to partner up and ultimately learn something from Jack Dorsey's company. I think that is more advantageous for Google than it is really for Square, but I think that Square is going to definitely benefit from, you know, really having that kind of star power connection and working together with such a partner. And I think that that just makes its case even stronger for it to be included into the S&P 500 later on. But I mean, in looking at like Apple, I mean, over 1 billion devices, an entire ecosystem and everything else. And actually people use Apple Wallet consistently across the board. It just doesn't compare in comparison between, you know, really Square and Google combined.
Okay. So I guess the comments.
I want to send a special shout out to somebody who just joined in the chat. Shout outs to Uncle Larry Jones. He's in the room. So I just want to give you a special shout out, sir. And I hope you're doing well and recovered.
Nice. Okay. So question, that totally made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, in our last 6 minutes. Thanks, Tivo. In our last 6 minutes, one more word on the street is. So the company.
More word on the street?
Yeah. The company is Zscaler. So word on the street is.
Zscaler shocked the world. Though that's not something that's out of the extraordinary, but honestly, I think that Zscaler is going to do more and honestly shocking the world in the sense of as we start getting more so into services that go outside of their legacy structure. So let's take AKA health. You're going to go more so into cloud-based and more so into services in which that you work together with other things. It's only going to make sense in which that you start to focus on, you know, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is going to be huge. The other part is automotive. A lot of these auto manufacturers that are going to be working with such things like over-the-air technology, how secure are their platforms going to be? Again, cybersecurity. When we start talking about governmental contracts, when we start talking about like things that are like education based, cybersecurity is going to be one of them. And I think that Zscaler is positioned very, very well alongside with Fortinet and a few other companies that are going to definitely be on the leading forefront. Now, the question is that what is it that they're going to do that's going to take them into the next stratosphere to knock out the Nortons of the world? Because Norton has been around for a very long time, especially within the enterprise model space. But I think that honestly, I mean, I would see it like this. I could see that Zscaler starts to be more so embedded into more cloud infrastructure. So imagine, you know, Amazon makes the announcement of AWS plus Zscaler together, or Google Cloud plus Zscaler, or giving you options of whether or not which service provider would you like to choose. Especially if we're going into the ESG standpoint, that's definitely going to be on the forefront. Can we keep things secure?
Okay, so that's what we need to be paying attention to.
And I think that what Zscaler needs to start doing better at is starting to incorporate more artificial and machine learning intelligence into their platform. They're doing a good job now, but I think that they're going to need to do even more where it starts to get even more predictive.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, there are some questions about, where did it go? How long do you think low volume / volatility will last?
It's interesting because, you know, if you go back and look at like previous markets before 2020, I mean, we're kind of going back into the normalcy as it pertains to what volume looked like. You know, really, it's like, this is kind of like what normal looks like for the market, where you see such volume come through. Now, when it comes to volatility is more so in a seasonality factor, as well as to events that may take place that can cause spikes. So honestly, I'm not too worried about those things. I think that, you know, it's very easy to get wrapped up into it as it pertains to volatility, but we're currently sitting sub 20, if I'm correct, in the volatility index through CBOE. But, you know, come correction time, you're going to probably see a spike of about 24 to 26, maybe even 28 in the volatility index, maybe even 30. So I know that that's quite the range, but I'm going to just say from 24 to 30, and volatility spikes during correction time later on this year. But I mean, those things are natural if you go back and look at them over time. And I always say to folks, it's easy to look at things even within a year. Where people need to start spending time in, and if you're really going to be good at this, is you need to start going back by 5 years and really getting a good gauge as it pertains to what has transpired and taking place. Therein, you can actually start to spot some long-term trends. Doesn't mean that you're going to get everything 100% correct, but you can kind of start gaining some solid vision there. Vision.
Okay, so dang it, there was one more that I wanted to get in, but I don't think we're going to get to it. Okay, 30 seconds on CRM Salesforce.
Oh, CRM Salesforce, dope. I mean, I think now officially, Mark Benioff, all your acquisitions have started to pay off. Congratulations. I think the stock is up 5% in the aftermarket. They had a blockbuster earnings. I think that honestly, there's more upside for them ahead, especially as we start getting back to new normal. It's very interesting because lo and behold, I think that CRM may also possibly replace a company on the come-ups picks list sooner or later down the road. So honestly, I'm a huge fan of what they do as it pertains to the acquisitions in which that they made. They're in a great spot in where they compete against other companies, but for the most part, I like CRM, especially as, like I said, when we start going back to new normals, or really going back to a normal, I think that CRM is definitely a company that you cannot overlook at all.
All right. So do you have any final thoughts in our last 60 seconds?
I would say this, it's like, you're going to go through a period over the next, like really this next set of weeks, you're going to go through a lot of narrative based like discussions that are going to be taking place. It's okay to listen to it every now and then, but you're going to have to, this is really on the time where it's going to test your knowledge and to test your abilities of, can you actually spot the actual news out of the noise and really look for signals. I think that if you can do that, then honestly, it's like, you're going on a whole new level. And honestly, it's going to be very, very easy to fall into the trap of just the sensational part of what you hear on the media, because it's a 24-hour news cycle. I would say that, given in the sense where you see a lot of the financials, materials, and utility companies, they've had a significant run, but then the question is are they sustainable at these levels? And that's where the main conversation is going to start being had. Now that we have these companies at significant highs for the year, and we're going into a correction, and we're going to be going into a correction later on in the year, well, where is it that investors are going to want to place their money? And so again, I mentioned on Twitter, interestingly, I mentioned saying that, some of these companies, you need to start looking at them as like savings accounts, where you've had a great run in 2020. Now people are, say, for example, putting their money into savings account companies, and we're said, okay, hey, they're safe for me, they're defensive, I won't, I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, after a while, savings accounts don't look sexy anymore, because you're going to want to go out there and start shopping. And sooner or later, those things that you want to go buy are going to look way more attractive than, say, for example, what's already there. So I don't ever see anybody buying anything from a savings account. They're going to switch it over to checking and then have fun, go mad. The thing is, really just start to look for the signals, start using the previous knowledge of 5 years, I would say, to kind of get a good idea of where is it that we're going. And a good thing that you can do is start pulling up the sector ETFs, the index sector ETFs, and start putting that and comparing them across the board over 5 years, just to see exactly how is it that they perform in congruence or in tandem with each other. And that can give you a pretty good, that can help tell a better story.
All righty. Well, Mark, I hope you have some exciting plans this weekend.
Rest. Rest is definitely that. And then, of course, I'm going to definitely watch LeBron James play, and see if we can get this thing back on track.
Okay. Well,
shout outs to the Clippers. Shout outs to those Clippers, by the way.
Okay. Sports.
That's for TiVo.
I figured it was.
You notice I didn't put the shades on, so no shade included.
Well, that's it. That's all she wrote.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for rocking with us. I kind of took it back old school. I'm kind of like feeling those old school vibes of where is it that the come up first started. You never know. I may even have to pull out the phone, in which is like, hey, do you see this? No, I won't do that. No. But thank you so much, everybody, for rocking with us and just coming to spend some time with us and learn more about the markets. Just continue to keep learning, keep researching. And it's not about always being right, but it's more so about essentially the growth. If you keep doing that, you'll be okay. Be kind. That's our motto. Be kind to one another and essentially keep helping each other grow. Until next time, I'm Mark Monroe.
And I'm Jolyn GC. And the place to be. I was going to say something else, and I was like, oh.
I was like, what happened there?
Because I was going to say something else. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and this has been a come up. We'll see you all next week. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend for those in whom which that you are in memorial or in memoriam for. Our hearts go out to you and your family and your loved ones. Spend some time with a family member, hug one if you can, or many if you can. If not, then, be there in spirit. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye, y'all.